Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We have a very interesting unboxing for you today of a quite old product, the Great Patriotic War. This is a sort of high-level East Front World War II design, in this case by Frank Chadwick and Brad Hay. Brad does not apparently warrant capitalization in his name from his contribution, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But there's some interesting things. A buddy of mine, this is Buddy Unboxing. Buddy managed to get a copy of this in the shrink wrap, and it's really pretty nice. This is a 1988 design, by the way, so I would call that as late GDW, if you will. You can see that the box art is not incredibly fancy, and we also see that this includes the bonus game Battle for Moscow, which is, of course, a Frank Chadwick design, a design that endures to this day. By itself and as the basis for the giant Frank Chadwick ETO project, so which adds a considerable amount of chrome. So we'll get that in here as well. So let's open her up. Nice crisp shrink wrap, very complete looking shrink wrap. So let us open her up. There is, I would call it rather mild dishing on the box. That's something I always. I mean, on a game this old, it's almost inevitable. I am very happy when I don't have box dishing, let me put it that way, or where it's minor as it is here. So this is pretty standard GDW, kind of thin-walled box. These boxes, back in the day, it's not just GDW, of course, it's a lot of these publishers, they're not super-duper rugged. So, first of all, we get what looks like a little package that is Battle for Moscow. So this is a free game to introduce you to wargaming. It's got some introductory material. This very characteristic layout of GDW for the era. Very similar to what you would see in 2300 AD. Of course, I'm vastly more familiar with late period GDW RPG product than I am with their war games. Where I am familiar with their war games, it tends to be the earlier stuff and or the sci-fi stuff. So here is the map for Battle for Moscow. Not an incredibly fancy map, as you can see. And here's the thing on history of GDW. This is totally worth looking at here. In fact, I'm almost inclined to scan this just for the sake of reference. All right. And they've got some catalog of games in the back, games for beginners, other introductory war games, role-playing games, GDW, of course. Oh, this is not a catalog page. This is an article on other introductory war games, including from other publishers such as Blue and Gray and War at Sea. Very interesting. Okay, so that's pretty neat right there, and we got the counters too. So this is a pretty thick brown core stock here, and it looks like roughly a quarter counter sheet with plenty of blanks. So just the Battle for Moscow is actually pretty neat, to be honest. And then we've got a bunch of very interesting components. Okay, let's take a look at a whole bunch of stuff here, because I am not familiar with this type of counter tray. I've never seen this before. All right, so we get two 6-sided dice of a very standard old school type. This is a very interesting counter tray. This lid does not lock down, but it does kind of friction fit on. And it kind of should keep things pretty put. Nice square compartments. It's actually a kind of cool looking tray, to be honest about it. It's got a center compartment there for something. Very interesting counter tray. I don't think I have ever seen a GDW game that came with a counter tray before. I did have like the Third World War games and the Assault games, and those didn't come with counter trays, but I'm not sure what the chronology is when those came out versus when this came out. Here's a little half-page errata sheet. Here's a Game Designers Workshop game response card you can send back to P.O. Box in Bloomington, Illinois, and it will presumably go into the post office wastebasket. We have, I think, one counter sheet here. It is a full counter sheet with presumably Soviets in red and Germans in a blue that I would more typically associate with the French. And it looks like we have some partisans down here as well. There are some blanks, but most of this is actual units. Doesn't appear to be a lot of markers. I don't see any markers, in fact. Maybe this stuff. It's on the same quite thick brown core stock, and they are double-sided. Registration looks good. Smells maybe a tiny bit musty. It was in the shrink wrap. It shouldn't be all that musty. But I've certainly taken stuff out of the shrink wrap that was mustier than this. We got what looks like a turn record track, which includes reinforcements and such. Now this covers the whole war, right? The entire East Front. So that they were doing that in one counter sheet kind of puts it in the same type of category as your Russian campaign or something like that. All right, so we have two separate books here: Soviet scenarios and Axis scenarios. So what we're looking at is two separate setup books for the different scenarios. Scenarios include Operation Barbarossa, Fall Blau, Operation Uranus, Operation Citadel, Operation Bagration, and some historical notes on the Soviet Army of the day, which is pretty nice. And I imagine we'll see pretty much completely parallel in here. Now, these are 16-page books, black and white, as we would absolutely expect to see from 1988. Pretty well illustrated, again, for the day. Paper, I think, feels like it's thinner than what we would see now. And then here we have the rule book. I don't think this is all that complicated. It's a 24-page rule book with a bunch of designer's notes by Brad Hay back here in the back. For all I know, this thing's built off of Battle for Moscow. That wouldn't actually surprise me particularly. I think that system is simple and flexible enough that you could have done that. Special thanks to Alan Emmerich and the staff of Fire and Movement for playtesting. Okay, cool. Okay. I don't see a mention of Battle for Moscow in here, but certainly I don't see anything that looks totally different either. I'd have to sit here and compare them. Now, we have one map, and it's interesting. So let's put everything else back in the box and take a look at this map. And it is interesting because it is on a cart. Oh, it's two pieces, okay? They're not full-size pieces. These are what would today be considered half-sized standard wargame maps, okay? Try and get you as good a view of this as I can, but it ain't much. And it's, not what I would consider an attractive map by modern standards. So here we have, looks like most of the, actually this looks like this just goes together like this. With some interesting, like half forested hexes here. There's more overlap than that. It actually overlaps to, that's interesting. So here's a rel, here's a rel. I'm very confused. It feels like there's two Arels on the map, and this is how it's supposed to link up, actually, based on the way the roads link up. That actually makes sense. And it is on like a thin card stock. Not that thin, but it's pretty glossy too. You would definitely need to put this under plexi. It's an interesting looking game. The map does not impress me particularly, not least because there's two Arels on here for reasons which I'm not sure is entirely clear. Also, rather awkwardly, so you can see this, Leningrad is right at the edge of the map. So there is not going, unless there's a rule to do this, there's not going to be a way by which the Axis forces can surround and or isolate Leningrad. Which, maybe that's a legit design decision, considering that it was not completely isolated, even during its 2-year siege. So anyway, what we have here is actually a game that I've been curious about for a long time, with a great title, no less. The Great Patriotic War from Frank Chadwick and Brad Hay. Design is credited to both of them. Development is credited to Mr. Hay, whose name I am not particularly familiar with. And again, this is a 1988 design, found on eBay. Pretty nice looking, pretty interesting looking game, I think, in this space. If one is in the market for sort of that one map east front game that can be played maybe in a long day. The classic in that space is, of course, Russian Campaign, which has seen many lives and has a few ahead of us yet. But this is another alternative. If you're not satisfied with Russian Campaign, maybe take a look around for this. I don't believe this goes for millions of dollars. So you might get lucky on eBay, and certainly this is in very fortunate condition. Now this is in a really nice condition copy. So hopefully you found this somewhat interesting. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. Please do consider supporting Ardwulf's Lair. There are links to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi in the video description. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and happy wargaming.